transferring students are accounted for in the MOSIS ID system. Direct match uses student information and the current school year to determine a direct match. Please ensure all data provided is accurate. Also, please be accommodating to other districts that have questions pertaining to data inaccuracies. The following slides will help improve your knowledge of the MOSIS ID system's batch file upload and near match resolution functionality. In today's training, we will be reviewing the following processes in the MOSIS ID system: tips for success, uploading a batch using the basic and advanced options, resolving near matches, duplicate ID resolution, and best practices for each of the areas reviewed. To ensure that the MOSIS ID system is utilized to its full potential, the student data that is entered into the SIS vendor system or Excel tracking sheet must be as accurate as possible. Here are some items to keep in mind. The legal student name should always be used. If you have a student's full middle name, please use the full middle name. Please only use an initial if that is all the information you have. The system will use that information for matching. This additional information is useful when determining if a student is yours in a near match scenario. Please also pay close attention when entering the student's date of birth. We are now going to review the two batch upload processes, basic and advanced. We will be walking you through the process via recorded simulation of our test environment. Please note that none of the names or data points in these records pertain to real students. Let's begin our simulation. We are going to start on the State of Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education website at desi.mo.gov. We are going to click on Web Applications. This brings us to the Web Application sign-in page, and we will sign in. Once we are logged in, we will select the MOSIS ID assignment link. Click the Agree button to continue. To upload a batch, we are going to click on the menu button in the top left corner of the screen. Under Assign, we are going to click on Upload File. This gives us two options of uploading our file. In this scenario, we are going to select the basic option. Before we proceed, we will review a sample text file that is extracted from a SIS vendor system. We will need to ensure all the header and footer requirements have been met. There must be a header and footer in the file. The header and footer are highlighted in yellow in this example. It is also important to remember that the total number of records, including the header and the footer, are included in the footer total located here. In our simulation, all the vendor information in the file is correct. Let's upload a sample file using the basic upload. We will select the file by clicking Browse, selecting our file, and clicking Upload. In this next simulation, we are going to select the Advanced Upload option. But first, let's review the best practices for uploading with this option. Some districts like to copy the data in the SIS vendor export and paste it into the MOSIS ID batch template or an Excel spreadsheet to view the data easily before submission. When this is done, the following column properties will need to be updated to ensure the file is uploaded without errors. Date of birth. The date of birth column should be formatted as shown here. Resident district, and current grade level code. If there is a leading 0 in these codes, the 0 will be removed when pasted into Excel. The column will need to be formatted to text, and then the leading 0 should be added back to the cells. Once the file has been updated, and if any changes to the data were made, the file must be saved as a text or a CSV file. Now let's upload a batch using the advanced option. The template field defaults to the eScholar Unique ID version 1.0. This field can remain the same. Next, we will select our file by clicking the Browse button. Then we will select our file. Our file is tab delimited. Our file does not contain qualifiers. The source system can be left blank. And we are going to ignore the first row. So what does that mean? By clicking the Ignore First Row button, we are telling MOSIS that we do not want to include the row with the header. If your file does not have this header row, then you can select No. So picking up where we left off, we are selecting Yes because we want to exclude the header from our file. Then you can ignore the multiple agency file. Districts do not have this capability. Now that we have our file information correct, click Upload. We have reviewed both options of uploading a file. Now we are ready to validate the data that was submitted. Since we successfully uploaded our file, click Validate Data. By looking at the status, you can see that the data validation is in progress. Click Back to Home. Click the Assign State ID button. Click Back Home. Click on the batch number in the batch info column. In this instance, 36 students were uploaded. 35 students were a direct match, and no new IDs assigned. One student was found as a near match. Here are a couple more examples of information that can be shown in the batch info. In this instance, a total of 4 students were uploaded. All 4 students were new to the MOSIS ID system, so new IDs were created. In this instance, a total of 6 students were uploaded. 3 of these students submitted were an exact match to the ID system, but 3 students had information that was updated and history was created. This means that the school year and/or district information has been updated. In this instance, a total of 6 students were uploaded. 5 of these students submitted were an exact match to the ID system. 1 student was assigned a new ID during the near match resolution stage. It is important to understand that you have to click the Assign State ID button to start the process of matching students. It does not mean that all students submitted in the file will be assigned a new state ID. The system will determine if there is a near match before a new ID is assigned. We will review the near match process later on in the training. Now that our student information has been updated, we can download the file if needed. Click the Download State ID button. Click Download. Click Save and Save As, and save it in your desired area. Here is a sample downloaded batch file. Notice the MOSIS ID numbers have been added to the information that was submitted. Now that we know how to upload a file using the basic and advanced options, we are going to review how to resolve near matches. For this simulation, I have already uploaded and clicked the Assign ID button for the sample batch. Per review of the record count, you can see that there is 1 near match to resolve. Click Resolve Near Matches. This record shown is the record that was submitted in the batch. Click the Review and Select button. The top record is the information that was submitted in the batch. The bottom record is what was already in the MOSIS system. So let's review our near match. Click on the first or last name in the bottom record. This page compares the submission record from our batch to the master record in the MOSIS system. The highlighted items show the fields that do not match. In this scenario, we have 2 different birth dates. If the district knew that the birth date was incorrect, you could cancel the batch submission record by clicking Cancel Record. If the district knew that this was a different child, you could select Create New ID. In this instance, we know that the submission record from our batch is the correct record by verifying the child's birth date with our internal documentation. Since we are sure this is the correct information, we will update the master record in the MOSIS ID system. We will do this by selecting Yes in Update Master, then clicking Assign Selected. And we are sure that this is our student. Let's review some best practices for resolving near matches. ID history. Be sure to check the ID history in the MOSIS ID system for more information regarding the student's enrollment, name change, and date of birth history. Compare data. Compare all data provided in the side-by-side comparison of the near match resolution stage. Enrollment information. If you are unsure if the ID associated with the student is yours, speak with school staff or contact the LEA who is listed in the enrollment information in the MOSIS ID system. Contact DESE. Please contact the Office of Data Systems Management for any questions in relation to your near match issues. Now we are going to talk about duplicate IDs. If you find that a duplicate ID has been created for a student, please contact the Office of Data Systems Management via email at coredata-mosis@dese.mo.gov. The only information that should be supplied in the email is the duplicate ID numbers for the student. Additional student information is not required. This concludes the training portion of this afternoon's webinar. Please feel free to start submitting your questions to the DESE group. We will stay on the webinar until your questions have been answered. If you have additional questions outside of today's training, please note our contact information here.